top of the hour with the news about Sam Leavitt. I wanted to get your thoughts on him potentially going to LSU. I know he's committed right now, but Tennessee's making a late push.
We talked a little bit last week about Sam Leavitt overall and what his value is. I think that coming into this past season, it was sky high. Arizona State made the college football playoff. Coach Dillingham Kenny Dillingham was kind of the talk of the town.
Right.
Leavitt obviously came in with a lot of hype going into the year, suffered some injuries, so it felt like his season fell flat. And we talked a little bit last week about his actual value, even with that team that made the college football playoff. Was it him, or was it more of a product of Cam Scatterbo, Jordan Tyson, and others? So I think that he is kind of striking while the iron is hot. And I think that if anybody would know him well enough, it would be Lane Kiffin to understand that, hey, look, we don't have to have a dynamo there at quarterback. We can have a guy that is serviceable, and if he sees his skill set anywhere like Trinidad Shamlis' skill set, he's like, hey, I can work with you a little bit here. Now, of course, he has to stay healthy in order for LSU to take that next jump, to take that next leap moving into the season. I do think that he might have been overrated just a tad, not a lot, but just a tad. And if I'm ranking quarterbacks, he's probably in the top 5. He's number 1. Not by my metrics or a lot of other people's metrics.
I think he is one of these classic examples of supply and demand. The demand for quarterbacks is much higher than the supply is right now.
Right.
And that's why he took all of these visits to these various programs, because he knows that he can basically get what he asks for. Just because all of these teams need a quarterback so badly. But I go back to his visit to LSU last week and how things ended. It seemed like Lane Kiffin and LSU were higher on Damon Williams at the time, so they kind of basically shooed him out of the boot. But then Damon Williams is like, actually, you know what? I do want to return to Washington. So Lane Kiffin has to make amends, gets in his private jet, flies up to Knoxville, gets Sam Leavitt to come back. And it just, the whole situation has just been so Lane Kiffin-esque, because it's just littered in Yes. Drama-filled, littered in controversy. But the latest that we have right now is that Tennessee has been in contact with Sam Leavitt throughout the day.
Right.
And they were never formally told that he had accepted an offer from LSU, and they are currently compiling one last offer to try and get him to come to Knoxville, and I'm sure it is for a boatload of money.
Oh, no question about it. And I think that there is a certain value that you have to put on your offense. And if you're an offensive coordinator / head coach like Lane Kiffin is, you honestly have to be able to say, hey, look, this will be our number 1 guy as we move forward. And then after that, be able to say, hey, these are the other guys that we will be leaning on. Of course, you can't make it too quarterback-centric, and I think that his offense is pretty wide open where it's not quarterback-centric. We saw Kewan Lacey really have a breakout year, and the quarterback's best friend is a good running game. With Lacey coming back next year, with a lot of talented players there in that running back room, also back next year for Ole Miss, you think for a team like LSU, okay, if Ole Miss can retain those guys, we can do the same in another form. So can the offensive line get where they need to get? Can the defense be where it needs to be? I think those are the questions you have to ask yourself if you're Lane Kiffin. The fact that he's going, to all of these ends makes you think that he's watched enough tape to understand that it's worth it to go after and catch him. It's either that, or it's just desperation mode, and he just sees the merry-go-round, and it's kind of like musical chairs, and he sees all these quarterbacks taken off the board, and he still doesn't have a guy, and he wants to go get a guy before time runs out.
And he wants a top-end guy, and I know yesterday he finally landed a commitment of a quarterback, Landon Clark, coming over from Elon. When I watched the tape on him, the first thing I say is, man, this dude's got a cannon. And I think that's he kind of reminds me of a Joe Milton-esque player where he can threaten every blade of grass on the field, but you just don't know what you're going to get out of him because he's coming from Elon. And I know that they're also in the market for Hussein Overstreet coming over, the former 5-star recruit from USC. So, I mean, who knows what's going to happen here. I would expect Leavitt to stick with Kiffin and go to the boot next year.